In the quiet cold of an Alaskan winter night, the sky was suddenly split by a blaze of unnatural light. Mike, now living a quieter life after his Air Force days, was outside his cabin when he witnessed it. A burning object streaked across the heavens, its trail of fire cutting through the stars before it crashed into the frozen forest a few miles away. Without a second thought, Mike grabbed his heavy coat and emergency kit. His instincts as a pilot kicked in someone might need help, and he might be the only chance they had. His truck rumbled to life, old but reliable, and he headed towards the crash site, guided by the fiery glow against the night sky. Reaching the vicinity of the crash, Mike parked his truck behind a thick copse of trees and proceeded on foot. The air smelled of burnt metal and ozone, a clear sign that whatever had come down was no ordinary meteorite or satellite. As he approached, he saw the wreckage of what was unmistakably an alien spacecraft embedded in the ice and snow. Carefully, Mike climbed over the twisted metal. The hull of the spacecraft was torn open, exposing a flickering interior lit by panels of alien symbols and dim lights. Inside, he found chaos wires sparking and the remnants of what looked like control panels strewn about. Then he heard a faint moaning from beneath a collapsed panel. He moved towards the sound, pushing aside debris, and found an alien girl. Her skin shimmered like the aurora in the sky above, hues shifting subtly. The hull of the spacecraft was torn open, exposing a flickering interior lit by panels of alien symbols and dim lights. Inside, he found chaos wires sparking and the remnants of what looked like control panels strewn about. Then he heard a faint moaning from beneath a collapsed panel. He moved towards the sound, pushing aside debris, and found an alien girl. Her skin shimmered like the aurora in the sky above, hues shifting subtly. She was clearly injured, struggling to breathe. "Hang on, I'm here to help you," Mike said gently, as if she could understand him. He carefully lifted the panel off her, assessing her injuries. She had a deep gash on her leg and appeared to have multiple bruises, but no injuries seemed immediately life-threatening. Using his emergency kit, he bandaged her leg as best he could and helped her into a sitting position. Her eyes flickered open, glowing softly with a light blue hue, focusing with visible effort on Mike. She spoke in a series of soft musical tones that were clearly a language, though not one Mike could decipher. "No need to try and talk," Mike said. "I'm going to get you out of here." Understanding or not, she seemed to sense his intent to help, her body relaxing slightly. Mike supported her as they moved slowly back to his truck. He laid her down in the back seat, covering her with blankets to ward off the freezing temperatures. As he drove back to his cabin, Mike's mind raced. He knew he should report this to his former contacts in the military, but something held him back. She was clearly vulnerable and alone. For now, at least until he understood more, he would keep her safe and hidden. Back at his cabin, as he helped her inside and settled her on a makeshift bed, Mike wondered about the repercussions of his decision. Whatever came next, he knew his life had changed forever tonight. He looked at the alien girl, her chest rising and falling evenly now, and felt a resolve strengthen within him. He would protect her no matter what. Inside the warmth of Mike's cabin, the alien girl gradually regained her strength. The harsh Alaskan winter howled outside, but the sturdy walls kept the cold at bay. Over the next few days, Mike observed her recovery, noting her resilience despite her injuries. He used his old tablet to document her symptoms and recovery, thinking it might help in understanding her biology. Alray, in turn, was slowly adapting to her new environment. The hull of the spacecraft was torn open, exposing a flickering interior lit by panels of alien symbols and dim lights. Inside, he found chaos wires sparking and the remnants of what looked like control panels strewn about. Then he heard a faint moaning from beneath a collapsed panel. He moved towards the sound, pushing aside debris, and found an alien girl. Her skin shimmered like the aurora in the sky above, hues shifting subtly. Her initial wariness gave way to a cautious curiosity about Mike and his world. Despite the language barrier, they began to communicate through gestures and expressions. Mike learned that LRA could understand some English, though speaking it seemed beyond her capability. One evening, as the aurora borealis danced across the sky, LRA pointed at it and then at herself. Mike nodded, realizing she was trying to tell him she was from somewhere in the cosmos where such lights were common. He showed her a map of the galaxy on his computer, and she pointed excitedly to a remote sector, her fingers tracing paths between stars, her home clearly far beyond human reach. Realizing the gravity of her situation, Mike knew Alra needed more than just medical help. She needed to get a message home. He rigged up an old radio transmitter, hoping it might catch some frequency her people used. Al-Ray watched intently, her bright eyes analyzing every move he made, occasionally guiding his hands with a gentle touch to make adjustments beyond his understanding. The cabin was filled with the crackle of static as nights passed with them huddled around the equipment, tweaking and turning dials. Finally, a series of sharp beeps broke through the noise. Al-Ray's face lit up with a mix of joy and relief. She quickly responded with a complex series of tones. After a tense wait, the machine crackled back to life, and a voice, melodic and alien, filled the room, speaking in her tongue. Al-Ray conversed rapidly, her voice a mix of urgency and excitement. Mike watched, understanding none of the words but feeling the weight of the moment. When the conversation ended, Al-Ray turned to him, her expression somber. She sketched quick, vivid pictures of her planet, Valoria, and of her people caught in what looked like a battle. She pointed to herself and then to the images, making it clear she was a key figure in whatever conflict was unfolding. It dawned on Mike that Al-Ray was not just an alien, she was a political refugee, perhaps even royalty, on the run from forces that wanted her captured or dead. The responsibility weighed heavily on him, but his decision to help her felt more right than ever. That night, as Al-Ray slept, Mike sat by the fire, pondering the enormity of what lay ahead. He had ventured into unknown territory, far beyond the scope of any of his previous life's challenges. Yet the resolve in Al-Ray's eyes, her trust in him, fortified his determination to stand by her. Whatever came next, they would face it together. As Al-Ray's strength returned, so did her concern for their safety. The news of the alien craft's crash had not gone unnoticed, and it was only a matter of time before curiosity or hostility drew unwanted visitors to Mike's doorstep. They needed to move, and soon. Early one morning, as the first light of dawn crept across the snowy landscape, Mike loaded his truck with supplies. Al-Ray, now able to walk with some assistance, followed him closely, her senses sharp to any sign of danger. Mike decided they would head deeper into the wilderness to an old hunter's cabin he knew about. It was isolated, off the grid, and would offer them a temporary haven. As they drove through the winding forest roads, Lara's anxiety was palpable. She kept her eyes fixed on the mirrors, watching for any sign of pursuit. Her fears were not unfounded. A sleek, dark vehicle, out of place in the rugged terrain, appeared behind them. It was clear they were being followed. Mike pushed his old truck as fast as it could go, but it was no match for their pursuers' modern technology. Realizing they couldn't outrun them, he took a sharp turn down a less traveled path, hoping to lose them in the dense forest. The chase intensified, with the pursuer matching every move Mike made. Just as the situation seemed desperate, Al-Ray pointed to a narrow pass between two cliffs. It was a risk. The pass was barely wide enough for the truck, but it was their only chance. Mike steered the truck towards the pass, branches scraping the sides of the vehicle as they squeezed through. The pursuer hesitated, giving them a few crucial moments to widen the gap. Emerging from the pass, they found themselves in a secluded area with thick underbrush. Mike drove the truck into a copse of trees, covering it with branches and leaves for camouflage. They continued on foot, Al-Ray leading the way with surprising agility given her recent recovery. Hours later, they arrived at the hunter's cabin. It was rustic and bare but provided the cover and security they needed. As they settled in, Al-Ray explained that the pursuer was likely a bounty hunter from her planet, skilled at tracking and relentless in their pursuit. Her people, the Valoran, were known for their technological prowess, which made evading capture all the more difficult. Mike set up perimeter alarms and traps, relying not just on his military training, but also on the survival skills he had honed over years in the Alaskan wilderness. Al-Ray, meanwhile, constructed a rudimentary communication device from parts she salvaged from her ship's wreckage that she had insisted on bringing along. Her plan was to send a distress signal to any Valoran ships that might be in the vicinity of Earth, hoping her allies were out there searching for her. That night, as they watched the cabin's perimeter from the safety of its wooden walls, a new bond formed between them, forged in the crucible of shared danger. They were no longer just a man and an alien, they were comrades, each fighting not just for Al-Ray's cause but for each other's survival. The days following their narrow escape were filled with restless vigilance. Mike and Al-Ray had managed to avoid detection, but the threat loomed like a shadow over their fragile sanctuary. As they prepared for what might come next, Mike knew they needed help, more resources and allies. Determined to broaden their defensive capabilities, Mike contacted some old acquaintances from his Air Force days, people who had left the service under mysterious circumstances and were rumored to have encountered non-human technology. If anyone would understand and believe their situation, it would be them. Within a few days, two of his former comrades, Jack and Sophia, arrived at the cabin. Initially skeptical, their doubts vanished when they met LRA and heard her story. They were fascinated by her technology and sympathetic to her plight. Both had experienced encounters with unexplained aerial phenomena during their service, making them uniquely equipped to assist in this extraordinary situation. Their service, and had been part of a covert group investigating such incidents, Sophia, who had a background in communications technology, immediately set to work with LRA on enhancing the alien communication device. Jack, meanwhile, began planning defensive strategies, setting up more sophisticated perimeter alarms and camouflaging their location from aerial and ground surveillance. Their combined efforts paid off one evening when LRA's communication device, upgraded with components Sophia sourced, picked up a faint signal. It was a coded message from a Valoran scout ship hidden in Earth's orbit, searching for any sign of LRA. The message was clear: help was close, but so was danger. The coup on Valoria had intensified, and LRA's enemies were using all their resources to track her down. The group decided to move to a new lock to send a strong signal back to the scout ship. They chose a remote mountain area known for its minimal electromagnetic interference. The journey was risky as they needed to transport LRA's delicate equipment safely while avoiding detection by the bounty hunter, who was still relentlessly pursuing her. As they traveled to the new site, Mike and LRA discussed her home planet, her people's culture, and their technological advancements. LRA shared stories of Valia's vast cities and the bioluminescent forests that covered its surface. Mike, in turn, shared his own stories of Earth, its diverse cultures, and the natural beauty he'd experienced. Their exchange deepened their bond, bridging the gap between their worlds. Upon reaching the mountain site, the team worked tirelessly to set up the communication relay. Jack and Sophia patrolled the area, while Mike and LRA focused on aligning the device with the coordinates provided by the Valorian scout ship. After several tense hours, the device lit up, and a stable connection was established. LRA's message was sent: a call for extraction and a report of the political turmoil on Valoria. Now all they could do was wait for a response, hoping that their signal had reached the right ears and that help would come soon. In the quiet mountain night, under the watchful gaze of the stars, the group settled in, aware that the coming days would bring new challenges. But for the first time since her arrival, LRA felt a spark of hope. Fortified by the unlikely alliance of Earthlings standing with her, the mountain hideout provided temporary solace. But the group knew their safety was precarious. They spent their days enhancing the site's defenses and preparing for the possibility of an encounter with the bounty hunter. LRA's distress signal had been sent, but the response from her people remained agonizingly elusive. One morning, as Mike surveyed the area, he noticed an anomaly on one of the monitors, unexpected movement patterns that suggested they were no longer alone in the wilderness. Someone, or something, was methodically searching the area. The bounty hunter had picked up their trail again. Quickly gathering the group, Mike outlined a plan. They needed to outsmart the bounty hunter. Using decoys and misinformation, Jack and Sophia set about creating false trails leading away from their hideout, while Mike and LRA worked on a more technological approach. Using parts from the communication device, they assembled a series of small drone-like gadgets capable of emitting signals that mimicked Lyric unique biosignature. They deployed these drones in various directions, hoping to confuse any sensors the bounty hunter might be using. Meanwhile, LRA felt a surge of determination. Despite her longing for her home, she had grown to admire Earth's rugged landscapes and the resilience of its people, qualities she saw reflected in Mike. Together they fortified their bond, turning their shared struggle into a profound alliance. As night fell, the group monitored their traps. Hours passed with no sign of the bounty hunter, but they remained vigilant, rotating watch duties. Suddenly, just before dawn, one of the monitors displayed a brief but intense scuffle. One of the decoys had been intercepted. Using the surveillance feed, they tracked the bounty hunter movements. He was alone, which gave them a slight advantage. Mike devised a risky plan. They would intercept him at a narrow pass nearby, where Jack and Sophia had prepared an ambush. As they positioned themselves, the tension was palpable. The bounty hunter cloaked in advanced stealth. The days following their narrow escape were filled with restless vigilance. Mike and LRA had managed to avoid detection, but the threat loomed like a shadow over their fragile sanctuary. As they prepared for what might come next, Mike knew they needed help, more resources, and allies. Determined to broaden their defensive capabilities, Mike contacted some old acquaintances from his Air Force days, people who had left the service under mysterious circumstances and were rumored to have encountered non-human technology. If anyone would understand and believe their situation, it would be them. Gear was more formidable than they had anticipated. However, the element of surprise was on their side, As he entered the pass, Sophia triggered a net trap, momentarily entangling him. The bounty hunter quickly recovered, slicing through the net with a device that emitted a concentrated beam of energy. Before he could fully free himself, Jack and Mike closed in. The confrontation was brief. The bounty hunter, though skilled, was outnumbered. They subdued him, and under the threat of further resistance, he finally yielded. With the bounty hunter secured, Mike approached him, hoping to gain insight into who had sent him. The bounty hunter, realizing his situation was dire, offered information. In exchange for his release, he revealed that he was hired by a rival faction on Valoria that sought to eliminate LRA to prevent her from reclaiming her rightful position in their society. This information was a double-edged sword. It confirmed LRA's importance and the lengths her enemies would go to stop her, but it also underscored the support she must have back home. The group decided to keep the bounty hunter detained until they could ensure a safe extraction for LRA. As dawn broke over the mountains, the team felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had not only survived another encounter, but had also gained valuable intelligence. LRA's resolve to return and fight for her people grew stronger, supported by her Earthborn comrades who had come to share her cause. After their encounter with the bounty hunter, the group felt a mix of triumph and unease. They had managed to capture a formidable foe and gain critical information, but it was clear that their challenges were far from over. The bounty hunter's revelations made it evident that LRA's enemies were determined and resourceful. The group needed to act quickly to secure L's safe return to Valoria. With the communication device now fully operational and continuously monitored by Sophia, the group awaited a response from the Valorant scout ship. Meanwhile, Mike and Jack focused on interrogating the bounty